Hello everybody and welcome to Pravus Gaming with Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord, the long-awaited sequel for the cult classic Mount & Blade Warband. I have been waiting for 8 freaking years to play this game, and it is finally released in early access on Steam, so needless to say, I am just a tad bit excited to be playing this for you all today. Now, I'll be honest, I wasn't entirely sure how best to approach this video. It's not exactly a first impressions let's try, because I've already put 30 hours into the game and it only released about 5 days ago, so I'm fairly familiar at this point. But at the same time, it's not exactly a review because the game is constantly in a state of flux right now. Since early access began just a few days ago, we've had almost daily patches from the developers trying to iron out some of the kinks and rebalance a little bit of the economy and other various mechanics. So it's changing a lot, but at the same time, I now have enough experience. I think I have a pretty good sense for what this game has to offer and some idea of where it might be going in the future. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and start up a new campaign just to show you a new character and what some of the early game will look like. And then I'm going to jump forward into the character I've been playing for the last 30 hours to show you what the mid-game can look like with a good established character. First things first, when creating a new character, we have to decide on our culture. We could be Vlandian, Sturgian, Imperial, Aesurai, Kuzite, or Battanian. Each of these different cultures are somewhat reminiscent of cultures from real-world Earth, such as the Roman Empire, the Norse, the Mamluks/Turks, Mongolians, Celts, etc. I'm going to go for a Mongolian-style character because I actually really do enjoy horse archery, and I like to focus on that a little bit if possible. For our character, we can be either a male or a female. I'm going to go for a male character, and what would be something that looks kind of like a Kuzite? Yes, I could see something like that working. Okay, we'll go with that. You could, of course, customize your appearance a heck of a lot more if you want to, but for the sake of demonstration, we're not going to worry about that. Alright, so now we have to choose our character background, and this is going to determine our starting traits and skills, and this is very important, because your skills train very slowly in this game. In fact, I would argue a little bit too slowly. So choosing your starting skill lineup and focusing on what you really want to specialize in is crucial if you want to have a good time in this game. For my character, I'm going to go for a focus on horse archery because we went for the Kuzite culture, so good riding and bow skills are useful. And also I'd like to be very good at tactics and leadership. Both of these are going to give me some very solid advantages at the beginning of the game. So for our family, we were born to a family of, let's say, tribespeople for extra focus on bows and riding. The more focus points you have here, the faster you learn those skills and the higher your starting skill is going to be. As a child, we were known for leadership skills, for leadership and tactics. Like all village children, we helped out by hunting small game. As a youngster, war was never too far away. We rode with the scouts. Before setting out on a life adventure, our biggest achievement was leading a successful manhunt. And many families were upended in war. My brother and I were able to survive because we drove them off with arrows, some bandits. And I'm going to name my character Well, because I think that works perfectly. And let's go ahead and just set kind of a difficulty to something kind of middle of the road. It says this is easy, but there's not exactly a hard. There's just realistic, which is hard, and then there's easy, which is kind of normal. So we'll go for that for now, just for the sake of demonstration. Okay, now there is a tutorial at the beginning of the game which will help introduce you to the overarching quest, which takes you all over the world to meet various leaders of the game, and eventually can result in founding your own kingdom. So I have heard. I have not tested this personally. I'm not going to worry about the tutorial because I already know how to use all of my weapons and I don't need any extra help. So here we are, the starting training field in the middle of the Southern Empire faction right here. We're going to leave there, and we're going to be asked to start up with our family name. I'm going to call it Hey Dare. So our name is Well Hey Dare, which is just hilarious to me. And we get to choose our banner. What do we want it to look like? Let's go for maybe something like this. Sure, seems fine. I mean, a game like Bannerlord, choosing a good banner is oh so important, even though you really aren't going to see it a whole lot. There aren't banner carriers in this game yet, for some reason, so bit of a missed opportunity there. Now, if you've ever played Mount & Blade Warband, this game is going to be very familiar to you. A lot of the base mechanics are ultimately a direct copy from Warband, just improved. In fact, some people have argued that this game is basically just a very beautiful version of Warband, but ultimately doesn't deviate a whole lot. And to an extent, that's certainly true. It's basically taken the mechanics of Warband and polished them down, and it does them very, very well. But it doesn't take a lot of risks with different diplomacy and intrigue kind of character roleplay than you would expect. I'm hoping that is going to be added into the game in the future. Regardless, the very beginning of the game is exactly the same as you would expect. You are going to go around and hire a bunch of recruits from some of the local towns, because no matter what you want to do, you're going to wish you had some manpower to back it up. So we're going to go over here and just recruit a few people like so. I now have 11 people in my warband, and hey, look at that! Looters! Looters are very basic levels of bandits. They are not particularly strong or threatening, so we can absolutely chase them down and kill them. Looters are great because they are effectively walking XP sacks. It is one of the most effective ways to train your warband, is just to hunt down looters. Not because they're going to pose much of a threat, in fact, specifically because they don't, but you still get a pretty good amount of XP for killing all of them. So let's chase these guys down, and then we're going to tell these brigands to surrender or die. For whatever reason, unless it is just one guy on his own, they always seem to choose die. Go figure. Let's go ahead and attack. Now, this is a nighttime battle, so I'm hoping that the graphics are going to stand out for you guys at least a little bit. But here we go. So I start off on a horse with a bow and arrow because that's my skill. I'm going to tell everybody to follow me right now, but you can see that there are some options for setting up tactics and formations. Could be very important and useful in this game to play it a little bit like a third-person Rome Total War. And you can imagine when you are controlling hundreds of people in an army, good tactics can absolutely make or break this game. That said, we're just going to go ahead and attack. I'm going to go ahead and do my writing thing, tell everyone else that they ought to charge. And then we're just going to take some pot shots, because this is what Mongolian characters are supposed to do, right? Of course, be careful, you could accidentally shoot your own people. There is friendly fire when it comes to arrows, but there we go. And it looks like we already took them down, took no losses on our end. That's pretty easy for us. So we hit tab, and see we took no woundings, no deaths, killed 6, wounded 1, who we should be able to take as a prisoner, which is nice, because we can sell prisoners for a little bit of extra cash. And because one of our recruits got some good kills, he has some experience and we could level him up. So we can choose whether we want him to become an Imperial Archer, or if we want him to become an Imperial Infantryman. I'm going to go for an Archer because I don't have a lot of those at the moment, and more range could certainly be useful. Now, as we level up our units, they are going to require larger wages, and they are all going to be consuming food. So the large armies will consume lots of food, and the more skilled they are, the more money you'll start bleeding out. We're going to need to find a way of generating some early game cash if we're going to have a chance at leading a large warband to glory. Let's take a look at our character, by the way, because we can actually upgrade some skills. So Bannerlord adds in a skill perk system. Right, so as we level up, let's say my bow skill, which starts off at a level of 45, you can see that we have unlocked Marksman already, and I'll just go ahead and click this, which gives me an increased accuracy of 10%. If we can get up to level 50, we will get to choose a perk, either Strong Pull, which allows us to hold our aim for 15% longer, or Faster Aim, which increases our readying speed by 10%. So the more you level up a skill, the more perks you get, the more proficient you are with said skill. Now, with writing and stuff, for example, I'll go ahead and get 6 extra % of hit points for tactics. I can go for cavalry attacks, cause more morale loss, and leadership. This is so darn important in the early game. I highly recommend you have at least a skill of level 20 from your background if possible, because then you can choose either combat tips or raise the meek. Combat tips gives everybody a small amount of XP every day. Raise the Meek gives everybody a medium amount of XP if they are tiers 1, 2, or 3, but everything above that does not get extra XP. So this ensures you don't have a lot of low-level units for very long. This keeps giving you XP until you get level 5 units. I tend to like this better for the long-term play, but both ultimately are okay. And then we also can get additional focus points as we level our character up, and eventually more attribute points we can spend as well. I have one free focus point, so I'm going to go ahead and focus on, for example, improving my bow skill a little bit further. This increases my learning rate, so I gain XP even faster. It also increases my level cap. So if we did not have any focus points, let's say we don't in Charm, we can't learn very much before it slows down to an almost negligible rate. So putting focus points exactly where you plan on specializing your character is going to be very important for you to level up at a reasonable rate. Now, as I said, in the beginning of the game, we really need to find ways of making money so we can continue fielding some troops. So one of the best things you can do for money is complete quests. Now, at the moment, we don't have any quests, but these are some of the major characters who are currently available in the city. Most of them are either major artisans or perhaps some gang leaders, etc., or the owners of important workshops and industries. You'll see a little blue exclamation point if they do have a quest. This is very good for making some money and gaining extra opinion with these characters. The more opinion you have with them, the more likely they will let you hire from their higher tier quality units. We could also go to the tavern and ransom our prisoners. For example, I do have 4 prisoners, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of some of them, get some extra cash. Thank you very much. We could also go to the tavern district and try to find some new characters who could join our party. For example, we have Samir Coalbiter. I'm going to go talk to this guy real quick and just see what he has to offer us. Unfortunately, this guy is a little on the expensive side, so even though he's probably really good at combat, I'm not going to be adding him onto the party. Now, besides selling prisoners, one of the other really easy ways to make some money in the early game is trade. Now, you can sell off a lot of the extra stuff that you gain from just killing a bunch of looters, and that is certainly fine. Selling trade goods, etc. Nice stuff. However, what we should be doing is trying to find goods that are available for low prices in some towns, carry them a long distance to other cities, and sell them for high prices. So, for example, I'm going to go to Onika right over here. There are some looters nearby, which I'm a little bit concerned about, but let's take a look at some products. So you can see that we have grain, olives, and cheese currently available. Now, look at the color of the number right below the item itself. Cheese is currently colored red, which tells me this is significantly more expensive than the average cost of cheese, as opposed to olives, which is actually selling for 30% cheaper than average. On top of that, because we actually traveled through Poros, I see there's a trade rumor that olives are in higher demand and we can sell them for 37. So if I want to just load up, for example, on a few olives, at least as many as I can carry before I get encumbered, we can take some of these just next door to Poros and make a little bit of extra cash. So I'm going to pay 336. We're going to travel over here to Poros real quick. I'm going to trade and sell them for, indeed, 37 and make 644. So I almost doubled the cash that I invested. There are certainly areas of the game where you can buy, let's say, furs up to the north for very, very cheap and then travel all the way down to the south where you can buy silks and stuff and travel those up to the north where they're scarce, etc. There's a very elaborate trade system being developed here based on what goods are currently produced. We're going to go ahead and try to get into a fight with some looters. Whoa, maybe not that many so close together. That's a little bit too much. Never mind. Run away, run away, run away. I wanted to show you guys the auto-resolve, but fighting 22 might be a bit much. Unless I can hire a bunch more people, which it looks like I can. There we go. With 21, now I can fight you. Get over here, you suckers. Now, auto-resolving your fights against different groups, especially looters, is very important. You're not going to be fighting directly, but instead command the battle from afar. Now, it's all just kind of auto-resolved. You don't actually get to do anything. It's just kind of represented by your tactic skill. But for some reason, your units get extra experience when they are being led by sending in your troops and not directly. So this is a very, very good way of leveling up quickly. As you can see, we actually took no losses. A lot of my men were wounded, but 10 of them leveled up. So I'm going to have to let them all heal, but they're all more experienced, and troop quality is absolutely crucial in this game. So that's some of the very basics of the early game. Now, ultimately what you're trying to do is level up your clan. If we take a look right down here, we can take a look at said clan. Right now, we are tier level 0, and we have a renown system, which is kind of like clan experience. As we gain renown by winning fights and doing great feats like accomplishing missions, we will increase our clan tier. Once we hit tier 1, we can hire ourselves out as mercenaries to one of the local kingdoms and fight wars for them. Very good way of getting some experience and a heck of a lot of loot. If we can get to clan tier level 2, we can actually ask to become a vassal of that kingdom, and that is when you can start gaining feudal land in wars. They might just give you a new fief. That's when you can collect taxes, and you start making some serious cash, and the mid-game really starts to take off. So that's what a lot of the early game looks like. Now, what you're going to do is once you get your first, like, let's say 15,000 gold or so, is go to a local city in one of the cities in the faction you plan on pledging for, one that's relatively safe from outside prying forces. And we're going to buy ourselves our first venture. Now, obviously, I don't have that cash right now for this early on in the game, so I can't show that right this second, but I'm just going to walk through the city real quick and show you what you can do. If we go into a city and walk around the city center and then hold down Alt, we can see a whole load of different characters and buildings available. For example, I see a silversmith, a tannery, and a wine press not too far away. These are enterprises within the city. If we buy one of these, then it will produce a passive income for us. Again, it costs about somewhere between 13 and 15,000 denars in order to get our first one. So we may not be able to do this right away. But it can be producing a pretty good amount of money depending on what local trade goods are available. All you would do is walk into the unowned enterprise, talk to one of the employees there, and say you want to buy it. Now, choosing what kind of enterprise you have is very important. There was a time in the very beginning of this game when the wooden workshop was bugged, and it was making about 20,000 denars per day. That has since been changed and now capped so that you can only make 200 denars per day. But it is heavily dependent on what the local villages produce. So, for example, in my other campaign, one of the first ventures I bought was in Charas. Charas is a city in Vlandia, which has a couple of settlements nearby that produce olives. One right here, one right here. These guys produce plenty of olives and, of course, run them to the local city, so olives were abundant and cheap. What I then did is built an oil press and started converting it into olive oil, which I could sell for a much higher price, and I started pulling in about 160 denars per day, sometimes fluctuating up to about that 200 mark. Beyond that, one other thing that you can do, if you go here and talk to one of the artisans nearby, so let's say Turiados the Dyer, is you can set up a caravan, and a caravan will automatically travel around the world and start gathering various different goods and trading it with the local cities. Now, you'll have to pay them some wages, so it'll be very expensive up front, and it may take a couple of weeks to start turning a profit, but when it does, you can easily start pulling in about 1,200 denars per day, so it ends up being very, very good. So yeah, if we just say we wish to form a caravan in this town, we would need 15,000 denars in order to do that, and we'd have to use up one of our companions, who I showed you earlier, in order to run this caravan. Very useful to make tons and tons of money. Now, of course, along the way, we can meet various different nobles and try to start building up some relationships. We have to figure out what kingdom we want to work for and who we want to fight for, etc. Lots of stuff involved there, but not a ton of character roleplay and intrigue currently available in the game. I'm hoping we are going to be seeing a lot more of that in the future. But that's kind of what the early game looks like, and you'll be doing this for at least several hours, leveling up your skills, getting some money, getting a good foundation and a strong elite group of fighting troops so that you are ready to fight as a mercenary. Now I'm going to go ahead and load up my other game. Here we are, Noric Pravus of the Kingdom of Vlandia. I did not name this city, it was already Pravent, but I would like to think that I named it. That would be kind of hilarious. Anyway, so here's my character. I did start with a much wider variance of stats, so not everything is looking extraordinary over here, but we're not too bad. We're a pretty reasonable character. We're making a lot of money. I've got 637,000 denars at this point, and I'm making about 2,500 per day. I do even have some fiefs to my name because we have reached clan level 3, and I was given some territory. So I own, for example, Car Benseth, which I helped conquer from the Battanians, and I own Ormanfard Castle and the 4 villages underneath those. So if we take a quick look up over here, there's my sigil right there. I own this city and this castle. So all of this works for me, and it's producing some steady taxes that I have to then spend to improve the property and then make, you guessed it, more taxes. My personal retinue is currently consisting of 95 men, all of which are going to be either tiers 4, 5, or 6. So we have a pretty elite fighting force right now, which is costing me a lot of money, but not a big deal, because I own enough territory we can easily handle it. I am becoming more influential within the kingdom as time goes on, so I'm hoping I will be able to use that for better political intrigue and secure a lot more territory for myself as time goes on. I do always still hunt down looters whenever I have the opportunity, and I don't have to run too far because, again, walking XP bags is always a good thing. In fact, 4 more people just leveled up from that alone. It's just absolutely ridiculous what you can get away with. Now, I will note, as you progress in the game, the way you play the game is going to ultimately change. So in the very early game, you're primarily focused on taking out small groups of bandits and just performing your own personal trade missions to get as much money as you can, right? But as time goes on, you stop paying attention to bandits because they're kind of beneath your notice unless you want to get some free XP. And you certainly don't bother with your own trade missions anymore because you have other people to do that stuff for you. Instead, it's all about managing the taxes and fighting your kingdom's wars as aggressively as you can. Also, occasionally managing your properties. Let's go to Car Benseth real quick, and I'll just show you how this works. We can manage our town and spend our daily production of, I guess, bricks, we'll just say this is building materials, in order to construct various different buildings and get some perks, increasing the prosperity, the security of our new empire, more loyalty, more food, stronger militia, better walls, etc., and even a forum to get me some extra influence. Speaking of influence, this is a very important currency I haven't talked much about, but it gets increasingly relevant the larger and more powerful you become within your kingdom. You have to use influence to play the political game and call in various favors with the other clans within your kingdom. So for example, right now I only have 361 influence. Everyone else is better off than I am, basically. But we can spend some of our influence to support them and increase our relations, or whenever we get some new policies proposed, we could spend our influence trying to encourage the results that we want, or perhaps when there's an election to take some new territory, for example, we just conquered a new city and who's it going to go to, we can spend influence to support ourselves or our allies and make sure the right clans stay in power within the Kingdom of Landia. Now let's talk about large-scale combat and sieges, because let's be honest, that's what you guys are the most excited about, right? Hundreds of men charging across the fields to certain death and glory. Well, this game does a phenomenal job of portraying those large conflicts. I've had fights with well over 1,200 men, duking it out for supremacy, and it is awe-inspiring watching the numbers of troops charging over the hills with cavalry flanking and arrows flying and blood spraying. Oh my gosh. This game does a truly amazing job of it. Now, tactics, I will say, I think are slightly underutilized here. You could deliberately send your archers to take their first round of skirmishes, then follow them up with a shield wall and have the horses charging around for a good flank. And that is probably a good way to do things, but generally speaking, just charging the enemy at the right time will get you where you want to go. There is something really cool, though, about seeing the AI trying to use tactics. Heck, there was one fight where I was trying to chase down the king of the Sturgians, and I engaged his cavalry, but then when I was trying to find the rest of his troops, I found his shield wall was in a big circle surrounding the king, trying to prevent me from getting to him, which was a really interesting stationary turtle tactic, and it almost worked, but at the end of the day, horse archery is just too strong, and I was able to punch through. Still, the AI actually tries to use formations and tactics against you, and that is really stinking cool. I'd like to see a little bit more impact from those tactics and formations so that you're encouraged to use them as well. But overall, even if it is just a charge and whoever has the better troops and the larger numbers wins kind of a scenario, it's just awesome. Guts and glory as far as the eye can see. Now, sieges, while also extremely fun, are a totally different beast entirely. I have never had to fight a defense against a siege. I've never been caught in a keep when an enemy comes knocking, but I have led several assaults. And the game does a really good job of creating scenarios where it feels like you are just sending men into the meat grinder, that you are taking absurd losses for very little ground, and my god, please just give me that foothold, anything, any breach that I can take advantage of, so we can fight on equal footing and take the holding. When you first arrive at an enemy city, you have to set up a siege camp before you can attack. This gives your defenders a little bit of time to set up some defenses, make sure the walls are shored up, and they have some ballista tower ready to go. After that camp is set up, you now can decide to build a battering ram, a siege tower, or some siege engines of your own. Trebuchets are certainly quite good for trying to knock down the walls and create a breach, also take out enemy defenses and create casualties, but they get shot down by enemy ballista pretty quickly. Battering rams and siege towers are very reliable ways of getting through the walls, but they come with their own set of losses depending on how entrenched your enemy is. Or if you're feeling very confident, you can just bypass siege engines altogether and say, we'll just charge the walls and use simple ladders. That can work, but be prepared to take a load of losses and watch the bodies go falling off the walls before they have a chance to break through anything. It is a desperate life and death struggle, but man, once you get that breach and you realize that your troops are now free to go charging through and storm the keep, it is a really cool feeling and a great spectacle to watch. Seriously, it is awesome. Sieges are great in this game. Overall, when it comes to combat, I have no complaints. This game is basically just an upgrade of Warband. It does everything that Warband did, but better and in larger scale with better graphics. It is awesome. So much stinking fun to play. Tale Worlds, you did a great job. You understand what made Warband awesome, and you kept that going. Kudos to you. So that is a quick taste of what Bannerlord has to offer. In its current state, it is mostly just a strict upgrade from Mount and Blade Warband. So if you liked Warband, you will almost certainly like Bannerlord. I don't really see how you couldn't. At the same time, I do understand why some people are feeling a bit disappointed with this current state, because I was expecting after 8 years of development there would be a little bit more to distinguish itself from its predecessor. Sure, you can smith weapons, sure you can play minigames, okay, that's all fun, but not really that big of a deal. The most glaring issue for me personally is a very flat character interaction experience. Most people just don't have much to say to you, because they don't really have a good background, and they don't really have their own personal agendas, yet, or at least none that they've been willing to share with me, and as a result, it means that the game kind of revolves around killing things and making money, but not about relationships. And that kind of takes away from the sandbox RPG elements. Don't get me wrong, It does the killing and the trading very well. Bannerlord is a lot of fun in its current state, and if it stays exactly as it is right now and just irons out all of the bugs, I think it'll be a really good game, but I think it could go a lot further. And that means it needs more of those sandbox elements. It means more political intrigue. It means more diplomacy. It means treasure hunting and different agendas. It means murder. I'm talking full Crusader Kings 2 over here. Okay, maybe not that far, but you get the point. It's a really good game in and of itself right now, and is a lot of fun to play. But I think it has the potential to be so much more. Thank you all for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed. If you guys would like to see more Bannerlord on the channel, I am absolutely open to that. I have been looking forward to this game for a very long time, so let me know in the comments section down below. Of course, hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the notify bell. And I, as always, will see you guys next time.